Hello, students. Let us continue with the chapter BINA KUTIR. Okay. In my last class, I had given you the introduction and we had gone through the first two pages of the chapter. Now, let us come to page number 52 of your reader, this harmony, okay, of the chapter BINA KUTIR. So far, we have come to know that this chapter, the narrator, he was in search of a rented house in Guwahati, okay, and while he was searching, his search ended up in the selecting a some type house that he had seen, which was placed surrounded by RCC buildings. Okay, and he had a wish to get it on rent. He didn't know whom the house belonged to, but by whatever we have done so far till there, we come to know that he thought of renting that house, getting that house on rent, and how convenient it will be to get that house on rent. It will be so near to his workplace. He can go by his bicycle. It will be nice for his family to live there. So let us see what happens next. Winter's coming to an end. It is almost a season of heat now. So at the time, okay, the setting of the story was what was the season? The season was the end of winter, and it was almost a season of heat. Means after winter we have spring, and during the springtime in Assam it's almost very quite hot. So the season of heat was had already set in. It was quite hot. Thirsty, I moved forward. I means the narrator. The narrator was thirsty, was searching for houses. So that made him very worn out, tired, thirsty, and he was moving forward. Languidly, I ran through the signatures of the shops towards the right side. Languidly means the tiredly, in a very tired manner. He was running through the signatures, means the signboards of the shops that were on the right hand side, okay, of the house Binakutir, as he had named. What were the signs to be read? Pk Rai Dice Maker, Annapurna Bread, Khupchandi Radio Distributors. Most of the windows in the second story of the house had their curtains half drawn. One thing he had noticed, that most of the windows on the second story of that particular house, mm, the curtains were half drawn. Veranda walls had saris spread out to dry, and on the verandas there were saris, washed saris, so that they dry up in the heat. And in the story above it, that is on the third story, gamuchas were hung out to dry. And that's most people do that. No? After washing the clothes, not able to find convenient places to make them dry out, they put the things on the walls, on the verandas. So saris were on the second story and gamuchas were on the third story. Maybe the landlord was from this place itself. The narrator was, he was assuming that the landlord was from that place itself. He stayed there with his family. So these things gave us gave a sign, indication that it was inhabited by a family. That's why things were there, okay, in that RCC building. And then I gazed downwards. It was evening time. By the time it was already evening, the lights were on. And now, yes, and the spherical signature inviting you drink Coca-Cola in the stationery shop. And then he saw that when he looked downward, third story, he saw the gamuchas were there, second story, saris, first story, different signboards were there. And in the last, when he looked downwards, there he saw a spherical, means round signboard, and the words were written drink Coca-Cola in the stationery shop. Means there was a stationery shop where Coca-Cola was available, and it was inviting the people, the customers, to drink Coca-Cola. The one where should have been the garage of the building, just on the road. That's how things were. And the narrator made the conjecture, means he thought, he assumed that that the place of that shop, Coca-Cola shop, was probably the garage of the house. Okay, whatever it is, but he was happy that at least he had got a chance to quench his thirst. Okay, he can now drink Coca-Cola as he was very thirsty. Clear? So in this stanza, we come to know what season it was, how the narrator was feeling, and what he was in search for. And ultimately, his search ended by getting a shop selling Coca Cola. Placing the bicycle outside, I stepped in. He put the bicycle outside, went inside the shop. Stacked within were items of daily need, and in the counter stood a young man of around 27 to 28. Noticeable along with his checkered half shirt was the mildly sprinkled beard that adorned his face. See how a beautiful description, minute description the author gives. The author is telling that when the narrator went inside the shop, he noticed, okay, he observed what were the items sold there. Along with Coca Cola, there were items of daily need. And in the counter of that small stationery shop, there was a young man whose age was almost 27 to 28 years old, okay, and he was wearing a half shirt, noticeable along with his checkered half shirt. Means, what were the things noticeable about that young man? First thing was he was wearing a checked shirt, half shirt, not plain but checked. And second thing that was noticeable was his face was sprinkled with mild beard, means not thick beard. It was here and there he had some beard, and that adorned his face, that made his face look beautiful, okay, adorned his face. His downcast eyes directed towards a book in the lit up space of under the tube light, and his eyes were downcast, means looking down. The narrator observed that, and he wanted to find out what he was reading, that young man, what he was looking at. And he saw that he was looking at a book, he was reading a book, where in the space under the tube light, there was a tube light in the shop, and just below the tube light there was a book, and that salesman was looking at the book, reading the book, and it was occupied by no one else. No one else was there in the shop, okay. He looked up on sensing me and closed the book. When the salesman noticed that a man had come, customer had come, immediately closed the book like this. And a note on economics I noticed, but before he closed the book, our narrator tried to find out what this salesman was reading, and he saw the a note on economics. He understood that he was reading the subject economics, okay. And uncapping a Coca-Cola bottle, he strode it and offered it to me. And as a good salesman, as a good businessman, you have to serve your customers properly, isn't it? You have to cater to their needs. So this young man, he when there was no customer, he was reading the book, and when a customer had come, that is our narrator, he immediately closed his book and he uncorked the Coca-Cola bottle, means opened the cork, put in the straw, and he offered it to our narrator. Taking a sip, and just to make things interesting, I like the young man's demeanor, means he took a sip. Our narrator took a sip from the Coca-Cola bottle, and to make things interesting, he liked the man's demeanor, man's get-up. He, in the first sight, he found the young man quite attractive. Okay, I asked him why there was no refrigerator in the shop. Refrigerator, yes, your location's pretty good, and with the heat on the rise, there will greater demand for Coca-Cola. So if you had a large fridge, so on and so forth. Okay, so he wanted to start up a conversation. Okay, you see, students, if you want to start a conversation with a stranger, you ask random questions, and this is how a conversation continues. Okay, it initiates. So our narrator seemed to be a man of words, and he knew how to start a conversation, and he found this young man quite attractive, and he liked his pleasing personality, so he wanted to ask a question to make things easier. And he said that, why don't you have a refrigerator in your shop? Then he said, refrigerator. Then our narrator gave an advice that if you have a refrigerator in your shop, it will be very valuable and profitable for you, because now after winter season is gone, slowly and slowly it will be warmer and warmer, hotter and hotter. People, the demand for Coca-Cola will rise. So if you have the large refrigerator, it will be very helpful for you. But the shop wasn't his, he was only the salesman. Please underline that. Underline the important things. Okay, age of the man, you underline. Shaker teacher, you may underline. Coca-Cola, you may underline. So the narrator, after conversation, he got to know that the shop deal did not belong to this young man. Okay, the shop, he was just a salesman there. Yes, and the area was a huge one, and in a week or two, the demand for Coca Cola would surely increase, and meeting such demand would not be possible. But the matter of getting a large fish was not on the cards for the owner. The room was quite small, and the rent was 200 rupees, and meeting running expenses was already a problem. So in such a situation, yes, see, so all this information he got that the shop did not belong to this young man. It had a different owner, but the salesman let him know that they were not doing means they did not have some extra funds to buy the refrigerator. First thing was that the shop was quite small, so it will be difficult to accommodate a refrigerator there, and the rent of the shop was also very high. It was 200 rupees, and they had to meet other expenses, running expenses, for example electricity bill, maintaining the giving the salesman salary. So because of all these things, it was not on the cards, means it was not a need of the hour, or it was not possible for the owner of the shop at that time to buy a refrigerator in such a situation. Okay, yes, I responded in acquiescence, means he responded, he understood the problem. Okay, and he quietly, this our narrator, see, he could easily understand what this our salesman was telling, and he agreed to that. Okay, he could understand the problem, he agreed to that, and quietly sipped an inch or two of my Coca-Cola, and quietly he was sipping the Coca-Cola. I informed him that I was new to the place, and though I had lodged temporarily in a friend's house, I was actually on the lookout for rented space to stay. Would he happen to know any such vacancy in this area by any chance? So he gave some information about himself. We also get to know about it that this man was new to the place, our narrator, and he was lodging, means he was staying in a friend's house, and he was looking for a rented house. Looking for a rented house is something which we already know beforehand. Okay, and then he was asking the salesman that, do you know any such place of vacancy? Do you know about any such house which was vacant, which we can take on rent? um, Rented house, it would be difficult to get one for residential purposes here. But by the way, how many members did I have in my family? He inquired. So he looked very doubtful because it's a very commercial area. He might not find any residential place for rent. But still, the salesman inquired that, how many members do you have, okay, in your family? I mean, he continued, he had an acquaintance whose building was under construction, but it wasn't here, way beyond Fatasil. Not, no, not so far, I said, but what about BINA KUTIR here? So the young man let him know that he knew about acquaintance, when he knew a person who was building a new house. It was under construction, but it was beyond, way beyond Fatasil, no, way beyond that place, not that far also. Okay, but our narrator asked him, how about BINA KUTIR? What is your opinion about BINA KUTIR? BINA KUTIR? He was shocked. Okay, BINA KUTIR? I smiled mildly and said that Assam type house there with the Bina plant on up front. Oh, because Bina Kuti was a name given by him. People did not know that it was Bina Kuti. It was only his, means in his thought he was giving the name, the narrator. Then he tried to make the thing easier and told the salesman that I'm referring to that Assam type house there with the Bina plant up front. Oh, that, the salesman was telling. He looked back at me inquiringly. Okay, he was looking inquiringly, means as if he didn't know. He wanted to know something. No idea. There is no semblance of it being offered on rent. It had been lying vacant this way for days now. It's been 9 months since we have been operating here. The house been the same, all the same. Haven't seen anyone around. So this bit of information very necessary for the narrator. Okay, information given by the salesman. He told that there is no semblance. It did not show any indication that the house is going to be given on rent. Okay, it has been lying vacant. These people, this salesman, he has come to that place since the last 9 months. Since the last 9 months, they have been operating that shop there, that stationery shop, and from that 9 months, okay, from starting from that 9 months, starting from the beginning of the 9 months till that time, they had not seen anyone there. Okay, the house seemed to be the same. That Assam type house seemed to be the same. Haven't seen anyone around. Not a person was to be seen. That was the information given by the salesman to our narrator. Why isn't it offered on rent? Whose is it? Okay, narrator wanted to know from the salesman, because the students, shopkeepers know a lot of things. And things are out of the area where they have their shop. Okay, so he was catching the right person, and he's telling that, whose house is it? No idea. Smiling a little abashedly, The young man said, actually, I haven't inquired properly about it, haven't even asked anyone really. I'm so occupied in so many things. Okay, he said that, no idea, smiling a bit shyly, and he's telling, actually, I have not inquired about it. I don't have actually any time. I'm so occupied with my own works. Okay, he had to lead a busy life, he's telling. In course of the conversation, I gathered that he was planning to appear in the BA examination as a private candidate. He could not do so the previous year. The responsibility of maintaining the family is his. So many tasks, whatever time he finds during his stint at the shop, he has a look at these notes. Okay, see, so many things, information, so many information he had gathered. After conversing with the young man, he got to know that this salesman was of a he belonged to a weak financial background. He had to look after big family. Okay, so he was appearing for his BA examination as a private candidate. Okay, he had to maintain a big family, and he had a lot of work to do, and so he was doing this job also at the same time he was preparing for his BA examination. During his during his stay at the shop, whenever he used to get free time, he used to look at those notes. What notes? That day he was looking at the notes on economics. Okay, see, there are many people, students, in this world who do not belong to strong financial background. Okay, while they carry on with their education, they have to earn money also. All are not that lucky, no. But if you have a will, there is always a way. If a strong will always find a way. So this young man is quite had an appreciable character. He was working as a salesman. Whenever he used to find a free time, he used to look at the notes, read the notes, and because he had a motto of appearing for his BA examination. BA means Bachelor of Arts. Yes, I said, then asked, whose house is it? And drawing up a sip with the straw, the final one that emptied the bottle, which I handed back to him. I said, give me another Coca-Cola, please. Okay. Oh, yes. Then he said, yes, yes. I asked, whose house is it? He's thinking, whose house is it? He's asking that question. Okay. And that was the last sip of Coca-Cola. The bottle was finished. And then he asked for another Coca-Cola. So we get another information. Second bottle of Coca-Cola, the narrator was asking from the salesman. Okay. Uncorking another bottle, he said, don't really know. He didn't know whose house that Assam type house belonged to. I don't know much about this area. I stay in Kumarpara. Very important information. Underline, the young man did not stay there. He belonged to Kumarpara. He just worked as a salesman in that area. Days ago, when our school was taken over by the military, our classes were held in the Bishnuram High School here in the morning, which went on for a few months. Then I had walked through this area that was in my childhood. Do not remember it that well. These buildings weren't here, and in this place where our building stands, there used to be a small Assam type house like that one. Okay, so he's telling that actually I am not belong to this area. I don't know much about this area, but when I was in my school days, okay, way back, the military had taken their school for some purpose, and their classes were held in the school called Bishnuram High School. And Bishnuram High School is located in that particular area where the stationery shop was, where the BINA KUTIR was. So it's telling that, and in those days, the scenario was totally different. I used to walk about in this area, and then these buildings were not there. Okay, these RCC buildings were not there, and in place of this building where we have our shop, there used to be another Assam type house like the Binakuti one. A PWD overseers it was. He was Brajan Kalita, and this building is his. I wonder where these people get so much money to build such huge houses, not even a lawn up front. Naturally, it is a commercial area now. The more utilized each square feet of land is, the more profitable it is. No one would spare land to have a grassy front yard now. So the salesman told that there was another Assam type house in this place where we have this stationery shop now, in this place of that building. That we have already discussed about the building, third, second, first story, then this stationery shop on the ground floor. So it's telling that this place, actually in this place there was a small Assam type house, and it belonged to the PWD overseer. Overseer is a post, a good post under whom many workers work. Okay, he had to look after the work of these workers, overseer. And the salesman is telling, I wonder, okay, how these people get so much of money to build such huge houses, and they don't even have a grassy frontage grassy lawn, because this whole area has now become so commercial that each and every square feet is important. They don't just spoil it, or they don't use it for beautification or for relaxation or to please the eyes. They just want to extract money out of each square feet of land, and it has now totally become a commercial area. Yes, I responded. Our narrator agreed to that. Yes, that's true. And entering the straw in place, I patiently queried again, this the house, whose is it actually? Is again whose house actually it is, okay? The house, whose is it? Oh, a little startled, the young man replied, the one you are referring to as Bina Kutir. His face breaking into a smile, he said, don't really know about it. We were busy in our own worlds, hurrying into school, and sometimes because of the delay in getting back home, these houses weren't part of our interest. At that time, almost the entire area was residential. Who cared about inquiring about houses and their owners then? Anyway, it belonged to one of the teachers of Bishnuram High School, so I heard. He had become the headmaster later on. See, important bit of information the narrator had collected from the salesman. The salesman was telling, oh, that house that you are referring to as Bina Kutir. His smile. Actually, I don't know much about it because during those days when our school was, classes were held here, we did not bother to know about whose house whom the houses belonged to, who were the people who lived there, because the entire area was residential. Almost same type of houses were there. Okay, almost in the past, some type houses were there in that area. So who cared? They were young boys, school going boys. They didn't poke their noses into such matters. Okay, but still he had heard from someone at that time. Okay, and he's sharing that information to the narrator and telling that I heard from someone that this Bina Kutir belonged to a teacher of Vishnuram High School. Okay, and who later became the headmaster. He tried to recall, he tried to remember. The lines on his forehead indicating his concentration means there were lines on his forehead as if he's trying very hard to remember. And then he's telling Bhudhar Goswami, Bhudhar Sharma, Bhudhar something is not able to remember properly. Probably this was the name. He was a teacher of Sanskrit. Apparently, he was very scholarly. He taught the subject Sanskrit and he was very intelligent, very scholarly. He was the recipient of some honorary title from Kashi, and there used to be a signature at the gate, Sanjeevan Samaj, which apparently he had founded. Most probably, he was its president. I saw a few bald, discreet looking gentlemen deep in discussion seated in the veranda. Some articles were also written. Students during the Vedic age, somewhat of that sort. Okay, so this information was enough for our narrator. Good information he had given the salesman. Okay, he told that he didn't remember the name properly, but he's a teacher of Sanskrit, and before the gate it was written Sanjeevan Samaj. That was apparently, it was founded by this Bhudhar Goswami or Sarma, whatever it is. He was probably the president. He had also got an award, honorary title from Kashi, and he often used to see some bald, discreet means very discreet, not very clear, discreet, very you may say not able to decipher what they mean. Discreet looking gentlemen, deep in discussion. Okay, almost every day. And he had often noticed that young people, gentlemen, they were in deep discussion seated in the veranda. Some articles were also written. Students during the Vedic age. How do students look like during the Vedic age? Such students used to gather in the veranda of the Bina Kutir. Okay, something of that sort. So that was the information given by the salesman to the narrator. Okay, regarding Bina Kutir. Okay, understood? Where is he now? Our narrator is asking, where is that person now, that owner? Now, no idea. Actually, I wasn't in the city for quite some time after my matriculation. Embarrassed, the young man stopped. So I didn't pursue it further. A lot has changed by then. On being back, I saw that most of the earlier people weren't here any longer. Business people from Punjabi, from Punjabi and Marwari communities were here now. Oh, Buddha Goswami must have passed away by this time. So the narrator is telling that I don't have any idea. After matriculation, I had to go somewhere, but he seemed not to share that information. Narrator also didn't ask. So the salesman said that I have no idea where these people have gone. Probably this man, the owner of BINA, could have died by now. And now this place has been taken by business people, Punjabi people, Marwari people, people of those communities, and totally the area has changed. Okay, this is the information that was given by our salesman, by the salesman to the narrator. Okay.